Chapter 10. The Wizard. Having finished reading the ancient journal passage, Mortimer sighed wistfully and swallowed the last of his tea. He then rose from his easy-chair and returned the volume to its place in the vault where he had stored his journals for posterity. He then seated himself at the desk in his tidy den to write his current journal entry. His desk was spit-polished clean. The only items he kept on its enormous surface were his journals and an inkwell with pen. For many years he had written nightly in his journal, but eventually too many volumes had collected, cluttering his den. So he put them all away in a tight vault and altered his regimen, making entries weekly rather than daily. Each Friday evening he would open his journal and record any noteworthy events. These weekly entries generally followed the same formula. I'm still here in my exile. Nothing of significance has happened. I still haven't found my blue crystal. This week's journal entry, however, would be different. So many things had happened since Wednesday morning that, had he not been an immortal wizard, he would have had great difficulty in sorting it all out. He opened his journal and began to write. Friday, June 11th, 1926. What I am about to relate in the pages of this book began to take place on Wednesday, June 9th of this week. Early that morning, as is my habit, I checked over everything in my den. All seemed to be in order. The vortices were humming along as they should, and not a speck of dust was to be found anywhere. My servants were busy, scouting about, making sure that everything within my domain was running smoothly. My servants, who are small, hairy creatures that wear no clothing, are called little uns by the humans in the area, and, to be fair, they are quite little indeed. I have wisely ordered them that they not reveal themselves to the humans, if at all possible, and as far as I know, they have seldom been seen. I believe the humans who live near here consider the little uns to be mythical. I, on the other hand, am not part of the humans' mythology, for I am quite sure that I have never been sighted by the humans, at least not in all my grandeur, in the 150 years or so that they have been squatting on my land. With the help of my servants, I keep a good eye on everything they do, and until this past Wednesday, I had nothing to worry about. Early Wednesday morning, after making sure that everything was in proper order, I decided I would spend some time in Cairn Isle, to keep appointments and make sure that the small kingdom was running smoothly. There is a distortion in time between Cairn Isle and my land of exile, for each day that I spend in Cairn Isle, less than an hour passes on earth. A horrible catastrophe occurred during my absence that day. The vortex protecting my den from severe Iscaria had stalled shortly after my departure. The first thing I saw upon my return was an endless procession of giant beasties marching across the floor toward and out through the oak door, apparently intent on marauding the countryside. The ghastly creatures were a bright orange color, and each one had 8 hairy legs. Their gigantic forms were spider-like in every way but one. Their heads were leonine, with shaggy manes and all. Even the females and their offspring sported manes like that of an adult male lion. Each time I witnessed one open its mouth, I saw rows of vicious fangs, and here and there a loud leonine roar echoed through my chamber. Their appearance, with heads so mismatched to their bodies, and their sheer numbers arranged in rank and file, made such an objectionable sight that I could not help but gasp. I reclaimed my composure immediately and commanded them, "Halt, you lion spider things! Cease your progression into this world at once! At once, I say!" They paid no more attention to me than if I had been a bit of fluff floating in the air. At the risk of seeming paranoid, I must confess that I heard a muffled noise coming from within their midst, which sounded suspiciously like laughter. Being unaware of which particular lion-spider had derived such pleasure from my discomfiture was as troubling to me as realizing that the whole horde of them refused to obey the command of an immortal wizard. But I would never allow even one of them to know that, nor would I allow them to know that I planned to eradicate their very existence. The marching females carried either egg sacs or spiderlings on their backs. Once they made their entrance into the world outside my den, I was sure they would be heading southward and around the bottom of the pond. Where they would go from there, I had no idea, but it definitely appeared as though they were in the process of an emigration, and what they sought was a permanent residence within this world. I could not allow that to happen on my watch. While I was engaged in witnessing the awful atrocities that befell my eyes, one of my loyal servants crept out from where she had been hiding behind my large overstuffed chair, which sits against the north wall. She ran quickly over to me and grabbed at my robe from behind, tugging it to gain my attention. She spoke to me with quick movements of her tiny hands, conveying to me how the vortex to Severuscaria had been stalled for almost the entire time I had been gone. It was her testimony that the migration of the lion spiders had begun immediately after the massive, swirling, double tornado-strength vortex had come to a halt. Quickly, I produced my magic wand, and, extending my arm, used it to destroy as many of the lion spiders and their offspring as wizardly possible. I started at the oak door leading to the open air, and struck the farthest one from my sight beyond the opening. Zap! Nothing was left of it except a puff of smoke and a handful of ashes which drifted to the ground. With no time to congratulate myself, I kept on moving. I zapped each lion spider, one after the other, until I was standing at the entrance of the portal. Without giving in to any consternation I may have felt, I trekked bravely on, delighting in each zap and puff of smoke and ensuing ashes, until I reached the other end of the long portal, where I found myself standing at the opening to Severuscaria. Without leaving the doorway to that horrendous land, I destroyed each successive rogue lion spider until the mindless marching horde ceased to be. The first thing I did upon returning from the threshold of Severuscaria was to re-establish the swift vortex in and through its portal. There are other nasty beings that dwell in Severuscaria that have no business crossing over into this world, and although I destroyed each and every lion spider and its progeny that approached the portal opening on that side, I am oblivious as to whether or not a few stragglers were just slow in arriving, or even if some egg sacs were left behind. In any event, I gave the swirling vortex the strength and power of 3 massive tornadoes, making it stronger and more invincible than before. However, innumerable lion spiders had absconded from the doorway of my cave before I even returned from Carnisle, and had scattered into the local countryside of Kentucky, and I feel responsible for the entire infestation. With their egg sacs and spiderlings, they have quite a potential to establish permanent residence and make themselves very much at home. I vow not to cease my search and destroy mission until there is nothing left of them, not even one single egg. When I was satisfied that the new vortex had no chance of breaking down again, I returned to Carnisle briefly to concoct a potion in my laboratory, a potion which would be poisonous to lion spiders only. Because of the time passage discrepancy, I was absent from the Earth's dimension for only a few minutes, and when I returned, I brought enough repellent with me, or so I thought, to do away with the entire population of pillaging arachnids from Severuscaria. I exited my den with 9 bottles of my new potion, and began my endeavor to erase every unwelcome newcomer that had arrived. I could see nothing in any direction that resembled a lion spider, so I hurried off toward the nearest farmhouse, which lies west of the pond. I knew that a farmer named Chuck Whitney, with his wife Suzanne and their baby, lived there,